I mean, some people will be like, oh, I'm like designing with my intuition. Bullshit. In all seriousness, why do some people just seem very gifted? Like everything they touch turns to gold, and it's like they're not even trying. Like they just start a project and like everything looks so beautiful and so well put together that you just like, you envy them, you're jealous, you're like, tell me your secret, what are you doing? Like, how are you getting all these amazing projects? So I'm gonna share with you 10 things you can do today to be a better thinker. And when you are a better thinker, you are a better creative. I just wanna mention something actually before we start with the list, is that you have to be passionate about the thing that you're trying to be creative in. If you're not, it's just not worth watching this video, honestly, because what I'm about to share with you is gonna require a lot of time and a lot of effort and thinking. Then if you're not enjoying yourself, it's just gonna get really boring and it's just not gonna be worth it. So you're not gonna be able to put in the hours. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So let's get started. Number 1, critical thinking. Before you start working on anything, ask yourself, what is the issue or the challenge at hand? Always ask yourself, why are we even solving the problem in the first place? I mean, take a hard look at the problem, observe it, be curious, collect data, analyze it, and repeat. Do it often and it will become a habit. Your brain will start doing it without even you actively knowing it. Critical thinking will allow you to be a good problem solver, but one thing here is when you're analyzing your problem, don't jump to conclusions. Just because someone else solved this problem a certain way, that does not mean you will have to solve it that way too. Which brings me to my next point, which is first design principle. The first design principle is all about going back to the core of the issue and not jumping to conclusions. I first heard of design principles through an Elon Musk quote, which read like, well, I do think there is a good framework for thinking. What I mean by that is to boil things down to their fundamental truth and reason up from there, as opposed to reasoning by analogy. Throughout most of our lives, we go through life by reasoning by analogy, which essentially means copying what other people do with slight variation. Elon Musk is very famous for using the first design principle, and I think that is why he is so innovative, because he thinks of solutions that people didn't think of before or explored. I think this quote should be tattooed on every designer's forehead, because the only way to think outside the box is to try and forget everything you know about the world. Just imagine like you were the first one to be sent to planet Earth and you were assigned to design a table from scratch. I mean, at that point, you don't even know what a table means. And I bet you will not design a table as we know it today. And that's creative, because you will be able to be creative and not stuck with what you inherently know about a table. And that's exactly what thinking outside of the box means. Number 3, have a critical eye. Besides having a critical mind that we discussed earlier, have a critical eye, and this is very important for designers. Train your eyes right. For example, if you're a graphic designer, study different packages or different magazine layouts. For an architect, look at as many buildings as you humanly can, and look at them with a critical eye. What stands out the most? Why some designs look better than others? And really dissect the buildings to their core, their shape, their scale, the proportion, the materiality, I mean all of it. And do this for buildings that you like and buildings you don't like. Because sometimes it's important to learn what not to do than to learn what to do. So do it for everything you come across. Next one, design for fun. Don't wait until you get a project, then you start designing. Also, when you design for fun, you're not under pressure. So you're really taking the time to really tap into some parts of your brain that you didn't even know existed. And because nothing kills creativity faster than stress. So design when you're comfortable, when you're not under stress. That way you will get better when you are under stress. Iterate, iterate, iterate. As a designer, this should be your favorite English word. I am gonna say it loud and clean. The first idea is never a good one, and don't beat yourself up. The first idea is usually a warm-up. Think of it as like an engine of a car. Like you don't just like turn on the car and you like go ahead to a race. Like you have to warm it up and like you wait for the engine to get ready for the race. So don't beat yourself up when the first idea is not up to your standards, and also don't fall in love with your first idea, because the best design comes from iterating, and it's never like first design and I'm done. So keep adding, deleting, pushing, pulling, flipping until everything fits like a puzzle. If it doesn't click, get up, go take a break, make some tea, and then come back with a fresh eye. Which brings me to my next point, which is a fresh eye. whether it's your eye or somebody else's eye. What I like to do when I design sometimes is I would design at night, then I will go to bed, and then I will come back in the morning and check out the design again. If I still like it, then that's great. If I don't, then I go back to designing it again. And if you really get stuck and you hit a roadblock, even with a fresh eye in the next morning, ask a trusted person. I trust my mom a lot. She has a great eye for design, so whenever I am stuck, I just call her and I'm like, what do you think of this? And also, my mom doesn't even have a background in design, but I trust her judgment. So find someone who can give you a fresh perspective, like a colleague or a classmate. Someone who has a background in design is even better, but even like somebody who has no idea what you're designing can give you a fresh perspective. So find someone who can give you a constructive criticism and can pull you out of your roadblock. Number 7, inspiration. If you're an architect, find 1 or 2 buildings that you actually like and use them as inspiration. Like, analyze them and make case studies out of that. But you know, it doesn't have to be just buildings. You can look for inspiration in anything, like how nature grows. I mean, you can take plenty of concepts from nature and you can apply that to your building concept. Look at history and get ideas from fashion, from anything. I remember in my second year studio in college, we looked at how brain tumors form, and then we used that logic to design our building, how it swells, how it grows. And I mean, you're not probably gonna do that as a practicing architect every day, but I mean, that stimulates your brain and makes you think kind of differently. So that's what we want here. Also, I remember in my first design studio, I was assigned a site, and when I went there, I saw that the site had a lot of ivy all around it. I'm gonna try to like show you a picture somewhere here, but I used that concept of an ivy to design my building. I was like, okay, so you see how the ivy is kind of draping on the site. I wanted my building to not disturb the site, so I wanted the building also to kind of drape and follow the ivy logic. So I mean, I think that turned out pretty great. I actually got an award for that project. But anyways, yeah, look for inspiration everywhere. Like, don't just look at your field. It could be anything. So if you get to this point and you're like, you know what, Malak, I still don't know how to do this. I still don't feel like I'm creative. My work still look like and I just don't know where to take it from here. I would say go back to the basics. Really understand the design principles. I have a video where I talk about design principles for facades somewhere here that I will link, but honestly, these principles apply to anything: graphic design, fashion design, industrial design, architecture, interior design, anything. And if you really follow that, there's almost guaranteed no way you're gonna mess it up, because these are well thought out principles that designers have been using for centuries and centuries, so you cannot mess it up, I promise you. And for real, if you look at any good examples or any good designs, you will realize that every designer or every good designer follows these principles. I mean, some people will be like, oh, you know, I'm like designing with my intuition. Bullshit. They are following design principles. They just use them so much that they are kind of like became second nature, and it's so effortless they think that it's intuition. There's no such a thing designed by intuition. It's just, it doesn't exist. Talking about practice and second nature brings me to number 9. Practice makes perfect. Honestly, I truly believe that creativity is something you can learn by practicing. Just like working out or cooking. Like, you can watch all kind of videos all day long. If you're not out there in the gym working out, you're not gonna see results. If you're not in the kitchen cooking, you're not gonna be a better cook. So just like creativity, if you're not practicing your craft, it's not gonna get any better. So sit there, really put in the hours, practice, iterate, and then you're gonna get better at it over time. The more you train your brain to come up with something new, the easier it will get with time. Don't think of it as a chore. And of course, remember, I told you have to be passionate about this thing. And if you're passionate about it, it's not gonna feel like a chore. And trust me, if you're not getting good over time, you still have to put in even more hours. That's just the secret to everything. And if you're not, you have a serious problem. I don't know what else to tell you. And last one, please, if you're an architect, design in 3D. Design in 3D. Like, you can sketch all day long and you can make beautiful colors and everything, but you're gonna miss a lot of part when you design in 2D. Like, it's a flat image, duh, because it's a sketch. So you cannot design one part without knowing what the other parts are looking. Everything needs to read as one. And if you're sketching 2D, it's gonna be very hard to do that, and your design is not gonna look very coherent. And that's it. I tried to keep it short and sweet so it's digestible, and this is all I got today. I truly believe that we are all capable of being creative, and your brain is wired in a way that will surprise you the more you apply these tips and the more you use it. So let me know in the comments down below, how do you stay creative? I would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!